For these past 2 days, Atlas once again had one of their by now very well-known NicoNico live streams promoting the upcoming release of Persona 5, as well as presenting some new information. But what exactly was shown and revealed during that stream? Well, let's recap and explain. We see shows the protagonist and Morgana eavesdropping on a conversation on the train. Morgana is feeling sick from having eaten too much breakfast. One college student asks another how they are keeping their grades up, with another one replying that they're using a chain establishment called Family Lesson to study, which has a branch in the central city. Family Lesson apparently allows for perfect concentration, and people are allowed to eat while studying there. The way Family Lesson is brought up seems to imply that it is going to be an available daytime activity in the game, replacing the school library from previous games. It is also implied that using Family Lesson is going to cost some money though, so you guys better save up for that. This scene is followed by another one of Anne nervously asking the protagonist if they could go to the palace today. This is very similar to how the characters in Persona 4 would often ask you to go to the TV world on any given day. However, the tone Anne responds to your agreement in implies that agreeing either automatically puts you into the dungeon after school, or that there will be a penalty for breaking your promise to go. In this clip, we see that on days when the protagonist manages to find a seat on the train, which, given that this is Tokyo, probably won't be all that often, he will have the option of reading a book, much like how you could read books in Persona 4 in your own room. The book chosen in this clip is The Story of Bujiko, an obvious reference to the famous story of Hachiko. This clip also shows that even though Morgana acts as the narrator for most of the game, replacing the rather impersonal narration from Persona 3 and 4, occasionally the protagonist will have thought bubbles pop up that contain narration more akin to that of Persona 3 or Persona 4. This happens mostly when the narration is something Morgana can possibly know about, such as the protagonist's personal feelings. Fishing exists, it's an upgrade to the minigame in Persona 4 and now narrated by Morgana. Moving on. Clip 4 shows the protagonist working out in a training center after being instructed by a trainer. Morgana is amazed by the protagonist's progress, but also worries about his health when he seems worn out from training. Morgana generally seems to care a lot for the protagonist's well-being and is downright motherly about it from time to time. Training also raises the protagonist's max HP and max SP slightly, and should thus come in pretty handy in the actual game. Clip 5 shows the protagonist watching a soccer match on TV with Ryuuji, over the course of which Ryuuji reveals himself to be a huge fan of the sport. If you tell him that you like soccer as well, you'll engage in a long-winded conversation about it with him, which ends up raising one of your stats, called Charm. The personality stats this time around are, from top clockwise, knowledge, courage, skill, kindness, and charm, and the diagram for them is a star. This clip shows the protagonist visiting a stereotypical Maid Café and being served by a very cutesy waitress called Kulala. He orders a coffee, however, probably as part of her maid character act. Kulala gets this order wrong and brings a tea instead. Morgana notices the screw-up, and the prota gets the option of either forgiving Kulala or scolding her. By forgiving her, he earns points for his kindness stat. Okay? This clip shows the protagonist playing a retro video game called Forneus. At one point, the player has to give actual input into this game by rapidly mashing circle. If this is done correctly, the protagonist will earn 1 point in courage? How does playing a space shooter relate to courage? This clip shows the protagonist, Morgana and Futaba, watching a sci-fi movie together in the theater. Morgana dislikes the movie for being incredibly cheesy, but the protagonist gains knowledge points for the techno-babble. Anyway, after the has a small nerdgasm over the movie and says that even though she's seen this movie 50 times before, whoa, seeing it in a real cinema together with the product was a lot more fun. She then makes plans to marathon a TV show with the product in a room in the future. This is a pretty cute scene, especially taking into account that Futaba has been a shut-in for a few years and that this was probably her first time going to the cinema in a long while. You can solve crossword puzzles in Mr. Sakura's coffee shop. Doing so will give you some trivia about the solution of the puzzle as well as points towards your knowledge stat. Okay, now, this one is a little odd, so stick with me please. So apparently there is a Catholic church that the students of Shujin High frequent as a hangout. Inside that church there's a confessional. A confessional is used for a Catholic sacrament called Penance. You go inside, wait for the priest to enter from the other side, and then anonymously there's a screen separating you from the priest so he can't see your face. You confess everything you feel guilty for in your life to the priest. The priest will then bless you for having the courage to admit your guilt and tell you that you are at least partially absolved from it. Now, the priest is not allowed to share anything that he hears inside the confessional with anybody, no matter what horrible confessions are made. It's basically a therapeutic measure to clear your conscience when you're feeling really horrible that has existed ever since before actual psychotherapy has. Now, why am I telling you that? Because Persona 5 allows you to send your party members in for penance in order to regain forgotten skills for their personas.
Please don't tell me prayer is the only thing that can get us out of this!
Why the heck would I tell you that? God ain't even here right now! Prayer can go to hell, man! We got angels painting stock in Europe!
Repent, you motherfucker!
No, I'm not kidding! You call one of your friends to church, send them inside the confessional, have them cry their heart out to the priest anonymously, and as a result, get the option of letting them relearn a skill that the persona has forgotten. It's an interesting mechanic to say the least, but I get the logic behind it. By working through past events, your party members are able to retread past points in their growth as people, hence them being able to regain lost skills. Still, using a church for that, of all places, is a little weird. Now, Japan is pretty big on religious and crazes, which explains why a bunch of non-Christian kids don't really have an issue with partaking in a Catholic ritual. But that doesn't make the inclusion of this mechanic any less fascinating. Oh, by the way, the skill screen shown here for Anne's persona, Carmen, shows that she's a Lava Sakana. Go figure. Oh. What does this threatening red banner in the upper right corner say? Suspended from school. Days until suspension is released? 11. So, apparently you can get suspended from school in this game. And that as early as April 21st. Huh. Well, at least you can use all the time in your room to do something useful, like crafting. In this club, the project manages to craft a lockpick and a Go-Ho-Am both in one night. Useful. The project can cook curry and make coffee in Mr. Sakura's cafe. Doing so will get him 2 consumable items of whatever he's just made. Double useful! This clip shows everyone using their personas in battle, showing their famous persona eyes, cut-ins, as well as their entire skill sets for that point of the game. Let's go through them. Morgana's persona Zorro has Garu, Daya, and Patra, making it look like a healer's persona right now. By the way, Morgana also navigates while fighting before Futaba joins. That's the first for this series. Anne's persona, Carmen, has Agi, Daya, and Dormina, a sleep-inflicting spell. Interestingly, she calls "Dance, Carmen, dance!" when her persona uses Agi. The protagonist's persona, Azin, did I pronounce that right? How do you? Arzen, is seen using Aha, a damage-dealing darkness spell. He then uses a mechanic called the Baton pass to pass the one more he got from hitting the enemy's weakness over to Ryuuji, simultaneously boosting Ryuuji's strength till the end of the turn. Ryuuji's persona, Captain Kid, has a skill set of Psyo and Bash. Haru's persona, Milady, has a skill set full of skills not previously used in the series. Psyo, a single-target psychic element spell, Mapsyo, a multi-target psychic element spell, Triple Down, Amrita Drop, and Will Break, a spell which probably breaks psychic resistance. Makoto's persona, Johanna, has the nuclear element spell Fray, Mafray, and a physical attack of which I don't know the English name, and Diorama and Sukukaja. Yusuke's persona, Goemon, has Bufu, another physical attack, and Sukukaja. This is another demonstration of Persona 5's take on the demon contact mechanic. For those who don't know yet, most of the enemies encountered in the palaces are demons in the form of nameless shadows. When you knock all enemies down, there will be a chance that the enemy will trigger a hold-up and basically ask you to take a moment to talk to them. You can decline and proceed with an all-out attack, but if you agree, you will have to lead the ensuing conversation in a way that will allow the enemy to see similarities in your way of thinking and theirs. If it is successful, the enemy will remember their true name and awaken to their true identity as a demon from the collective unconscious. If this happens, you will gain a persona based on said demon, and the enemy will be listed by the correct demonic name in battles from now on. There, these images are badass. Where's Haru's though? Did I miss a clip? I can't find her! In which the protagonist decides to soak in hot water, and soak, and soak, and soak, and then collapse from failing blood circulation upon leaving the bath. And getting courage points for it! Something is seriously messed up with this game and personality stats. You and me, Morgana. You and me. If you liked this video, you're in luck. I'll be posting some more of these in the next couple of days. If you just can't wait or want to see the protagonist's questionable stats-raising endeavors translated in more detail, consider visiting my blog. I've got translations for all these scenes, well, most of them, up on there. I've got lots of other Persona stuff up there as well. Also, if you've got a sec, yeah, I'd really appreciate a like on this video. Pretty please. Nice. Well then, see ya!